Hey everyone, this is Brainwaves and today I'm going to show you 4 easy tips to make your basses more interesting using only Ableton stock plugins. Let's get started. Alright, so tip number 1 is using Amp plus Erosion. These two plugins, this combination of plugins, it's really great to make fat basses easily. So actually, to keep things simple, we're gonna use the stock operator preset, which is basically a sine wave. And then we're gonna post-process it with these two plugins, and it's gonna be really simple. If you take a listen to this preset just by itself, it's, as I said, just a sine wave. Probably you cannot hear it if you're not using good headphones. So to make this bass really fat, really quick, we're gonna grab Amp. And for this technique, I use either the rock preset and the heavy preset. So let's use heavy, and then we're gonna put erosion, and we're gonna use white noise, and we're gonna turn up the amount. And now we're gonna just mess with the parameters in here of the amp plugin. Until we find something that we like. Actually, I'm gonna turn off the filter and I'm gonna just decrease the release time. And there you have it. We went from this to this really quickly. You can obviously mess with the amount of erosion that you want. The frequency, the width of it. So I'm gonna leave it like this. I like it the way it sounds like this, and actually for the rest of the tips, for the other 3 tips, I'm gonna continue using this patch just to make things simple, and to show you that this can be used in really simple sounds. So tip number 2 is using a saturator for timbre changes, and the key in here with the saturator is to use this type of shape. This curve gives like really good results when you start messing with parameters. So that's what we're going to do right now. I'm gonna turn on the soft clipping just to avoid any redlining in my master, and we're just gonna play with it. Basically all of these tips, you know, I'm giving you like the basis, but all of it is just like experimenting and seeing what sounds good to you, basically. So something like that is something that I could definitely use in one of my tracks or something. As you saw, I was just messing with every parameter in here, with the drive, the bass, the frequency, the depth, the output, the dry and wet, everything. And so I was just, you know, seeing what sounded best for me. So tip number 3 is really good for when you have a sustained bass like the one that I have in here, that is just like one static note, because you know sometimes that can get a little bit boring. So tip number 3 is using a frequency shifter just to add a little bit of movement. So what you do is basically turn down the dry wet signal, and then you start playing with the fine, and really fun stuff start happening when you do that. So we went like from completely sustained to having like this kind of movement. And I think that's really funny, and that's like a really great variation. So that's something that you could implement as well. And tip number 4 is to using autofilter also to create movement. So this tip works best when you have something like OTT and a glue compressor after the filters. So I'm gonna do that, OTT and glue compressor. Then I put the autofilter before OTT and before the glue compressor, and I'm just gonna crank the compressor a little bit, turns of clipping. And now there is like 2 ways that you can go with this. You can go really simple and just create like a nice fat wub with a low pass filter. So let me turn off these 2 elements in here, and now with the auto filter you can automate that to make a really nice wub. Or you can be a bit more creative and use 2 or more filters to create even more movement. So for example, something like a band pass and a notch usually work really well for this type of effect. So let me just play with this a little bit. So you can see that, for example, in here I'm playing with the rates. I'm using like the LFO for both filters, and I'm playing with the rate. So this one is going at 1/8 while this one is going at 1/4. So it's giving like more variation to the sound, because this one is basically going like double of the speed that this one. You could also use the saturator that I mentioned on the previous step, so you can get a different flavor basically. Change the shapes, change the rate, so you get like 2 different wubs. And yeah, just experiment with it. I think this is really fun to play with, so I encourage you to just start experimenting, maybe add more glue compressors, more OTTs, and just have fun. Also, something that is worth mentioning is that this and all the previous tips, I actually learned them from artists like Oski and Taboo and Mythm through the live workshops that I have done with the Defyre Society. So if you're interested in checking those workshops out, hit the link in the description. There is a 10-day free trial, and you can also check like a ton of other workshops from artists like Sigbeats, like Chi, Outprofit, Peekaboo, Must Die, Tynan, Leotrix, Revolpi. There's just a ton of them. They've been doing weekly workshops for, I don't know, more than 3 years or something. I recently watched one from Easy Baked, another one from Erosion. So yeah, they've been putting a lot of value in the site. So I encourage you to check it out. You may like it. And yeah. So that's it for this one. I hope you found this helpful. And if you did, please subscribe, leave a like, and let me know what other topics you would like me to cover in the channel. I would really appreciate that. So thanks for watching, and until the next time.